Okay, Elena, we were actually just talking about authenticity, and you were saying that's what you think people want more than ever. Why do you think that is?
You know what? It's because this is what my fans talk about. I hear this. That one of the things that they love most about me is that I am authentic. My personality comes through. I noticed that early on, even with Instagram, one of the things I noticed about 2 years ago when I started this, Darian, I noticed that a lot of the women that did what I did would try to be very sultry. Now I'm older. I'm over 50. I'm 55. And when I try to look sultry, a lot of times it just comes off as I look angry. So So I was like, "Oh, I don't like the way I look." I never had that really good sultry look, but certainly when I was in my 20s, it comes off better. But when you get to be older, it just kind of looks like you're mad. And and plus, I guess the whole thing of everything that I do, somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is crazy that I get to play and I get to play dress up and I get to play performer and I get to play these things and people are responding to it and people are watching it and they're enjoying it. It's like I'm just a mom from the Midwest and of a certain age and you think kind of those crazy glamour times and fun times are kind of over. That's for, that's kid stuff.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, what? I get to play too? Oh, this is fantastic.
Well, I have to tell you, mid 50s looks very different today than it used to look. I tell you
Yeah.
that. You look amazing, by the way, Elena.
Well, it sure does. But I will tell you, like, I mean, sometimes I look at some of my pictures, I'm like, oh, I look all up 55. But I think a lot of it is the energy that you throw out there. It's your attitude. I've said it many times. Age is a number. Attitude is everything. Because I will tell you, I know of men and women that are 15 years younger than me, and they act like they've got one foot in the grave.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It's kind of I've heard on a show one time with someone saying, don't let the kind of like old person in. Don't let that
Yeah.
person in that like that 1 foot in. I've lived my life. It's just I'm waiting to the end type of thing. I just
Right.
can't
And that's
stand
part
that
of my
mentality.
message. I mean, you look like a young guy, but
I'm
everything's conservative.
45. I'm gonna
You're 40. Oh, Steve, but you look younger.
there you
Um,
go.
yeah, you look like you're 30. Um,
Yes.
but so much of it is your attitude. And I mean, I have to say that, I've always been kind of an optimistic, hopeful person. I've gone through really hard things in my life. I've kept the optimism, but this experience has really told me, and because it has, and it's given me this platform to tell other people, I want to share that, you know what, your life can begin again and it can be the best ever at age 53. And if it can happen to me at 53 or 54 or 55 and a new chapter and trying new things, the bottom line is be open to the possibility that your best days and your most exciting, most awesome days might be in the future. Even if
Yes.
you're over 50, it might be in the future. You would have told me that I'd be in this position now, that I am talking to great people like you and other people, and I'm in magazines and I'm online for different things, even when I don't expect it. I was just in the day I threw a picture up on Instagram of me in a black bikini. The funny thing, it wasn't even comfortable. It was like it had these
Hmm.
silver threads. It was really scratchy and itchy. But I was like, okay, I bought it. I can't return it. Take some pictures, put them up on Instagram. The Daily Star in the UK did a whole article on, you know, Instagram favorite, OF's favorite MILF is, sporting a new bikini. I'm like, news? This is fantastic. And I'm like, favorite MILF. Oh my goodness. There are probably some creators that were really unhappy with that, but I'll take it. I didn't choose that. They
Yeah.
said that. And it was all because I put a picture up on Instagram. I mean, I was really surprised. I was like, oh, well, I didn't even do anything for this. But it was a picture that kind of went viral and it's been
Yeah.
doing very, very well. And I mean, it wasn't anything particularly different. It was just me kind of leaning on my closet, and that's it.
Man, let's dive into that. You talked about your fans. So let's dive into your journey into OnlyFans and this kind of existence that probably you didn't see coming when you're in your 20s.
In no way. Listen, this is my message to everybody, and I preach this because I think it's so important so that people can go, okay, maybe they're not going to start on OF, maybe they're not going to be on OnlyFans. In particular, guys. Sorry, guys, it's a tough market. This is a market that women dominate.
Right, right.
You got the rest of the world. You got the rest of the world you can do. OnlyFans is our NFL. Like and NBA. We can't be NBA stars. We can't be NFL stars. We can be stars on OnlyFans. Sorry, you got a lot of stuff you can be really successful at, but never in my wildest dreams, because when I was 18, I was 30 pounds lighter, maybe 35 pounds lighter. I was way younger. Obviously, I was 18, and I was told, you're too fat and you're too old to start modeling. And I mean, I was like, too fat. I was like 5'10", and I weighed like, under 130 pounds.
Crazy.
And I was just like, but this was the mid 80s, right? And they were like, no, you've got a runway look. If you're going to be modeling, you've got to be more like 110, 115. And I was just like, there's no way I could stop eating. I don't know if I could get that low. Just so, I'd done some glamour modeling, some local like beer distributor modeling, Miller stuff, but I'd done some of that. But then I got into a career and I was doing consumer product sales and I was traveling all around. And then I got into mom mode where I wanted to have a baby and went through 5 years of infertility, was engaged to somebody that couldn't deal with that. And he was like, no, I'm tapping out. You're too old. You can't get pregnant fast enough. And he tapped out, and that was heartbreaking. But I persevered because that's something in me. And I will always say that my kiddo he got me through the darkest times, even before he was with me, because it was the hope. It was still the hope that I would have a child, that I would be a mom, that got me through, because otherwise, like that hope of possibility was still there. So, so then I was very focused as a mom, and I have 4 kids, and you might end up seeing one because when mom's busy with somebody or something else, they want your attention. Right. But I had never, God, the thought of doing something like this after 45 or 50, because I was so focused on mom. I was the leggings and sweatshirt and no makeup and hair back. And I just didn't even think of myself as that. I rarely dated. I did date in the last, since my kiddo was born when I was 42, but not much. And then I read this article on Yahoo News about this mom who is making over $100,000 a month on OnlyFans. This was in late February 2021. And I thought at the time I was working an office job that wasn't creative at all. It was very boring. It was very dead end. There was no future. And bonus, there was no bonuses or anything like that. And I was making about $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Struggling to get by. I know I made more than some people. So, we were okay, but certainly there was no money going into a retirement. There was no hope to do better, and it was a dead end thing, and it was scary because I thought at that time, again, I'm single, I don't have anybody, and it was, right after COVID, and we were still in COVID kind of, and I thought, well, this is my lot in life. My lot in life is to work hard, and after my kiddo is grown, then I probably get, a couple jobs, and then I'm just kind of working round the clock.
Yeah. And
then hopefully I can work a really long time so I'm never a burden on my kid. Like that literally was my thought. It's like, this is my lot in life. I'm people would say, oh, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, never. When I drop, like when I
Right.
can't work anymore. That's really what my vision was, even though I'd been always frugal with my money and stuff. So I saw this article and I thought, oh my God, if I could make a tenth of that, if I could make $120,000, if I could make $10,000 a month, that would be absolutely life changing. And I thought, God, and something, when the universe or God, whatever higher power you want to talk about, when they kind of keep talking to you, or they just kind of, there's an energy, it just kind of makes you go, no, you really have to notice this. You really have to, notice this.
Yeah.
Don't just say, no, I could never do that, or there's a million reasons why I can't. I have a mom bod, I don't work out all the time, I've got wrinkles, like I could have talked myself out of this easily. But something told me I need to, first of all, I thought it was a scam. I was like, this
Mm.
can't be real. How could
Yeah, it
that be
sounds like a
real?
scam, right? When you read something
Right?
like that. Yeah.
Right. Like, how could you make that much money from the comfort of your home, not endangering yourself, meeting strangers, being at a club, like, all those other things that people kind of in similar types of work do. And so I investigated it. I took a month where I was obsessively, anytime I wasn't working or doing mom stuff, I was investigating. And I realized, no, this is a thing. This really does exist. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, now I wish I would have heard about it in 2018 or 2019. My God, my life would have been so much different.
Right.
But I looked into it within about a little over a month. I started on Instagram and OnlyFans. I had never even been on Instagram. I had an Instagram for my puppy for a little bit of time, but that was it. Like I had no social media at all. I had no idea about it. And I had been out of the sales game for, well over a decade. So I mean, everything marketing wise had changed. So and then I started posting things without showing my face in the beginning. Started posting things and I got my first two OnlyFans subscribers in early April, first week of April 2021. They taught me a lot. First of all, they were like, yeah, I'm 28 and I'm 29. And I'm just like, you want to look at me? Because I really thought, okay, it'll be guys my age or older. Like I was thinking conventional
Right.
dating app, age, who's interested, and I really thought it'd be older guys. And I really thought that niche would then be pretty small. But little did I know that younger men often have a fantasy about being with much older women and that's a huge niche. And so I started mining them for information. What do you want? What's the thing? And I realized there's this whole stepmom kind of taboo thing, like dad's second husband or
Right.
second wife or third wife or fourth wife, whatever, and then the taboo-ness of that, and just basically the older woman mystique. Thing that I really realized, Darian, is these younger guys in their 20s and 30s, they're never going to date somebody like me, but I'm a safe and friendly and nice exploration for their fantasies. And I thought, okay, that works great. That works for them. It's a safe place for them to, fantasize. Just like I watch Marvel movies and I go,
Yeah.
oh, Chris Hemsworth or The Rock. Oh, hello. But I mean, I know that that's never going to happen, but it's sure fun. It's entertainment. It's fantasy entertainment. So the first month I made about $2,000. The first month I was making about $2,700 a
Yeah.
month. So the first one, and that tells you something right there, right? It was a calculated risk. But I went, okay, whoa, let's take a look at this.
There's
I
something
don't even
here.
know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm making $2,000 in the first month. By the end of April, I had 10,000 followers on Instagram, and I had made almost $2,000. And I realized I was working constantly, and by the middle of May, I realized like there was money on the table because I couldn't get to all the custom requests. when I was still small enough, I was doing customer requests. I
Yeah.
really rarely do them now because I don't have the time. But back then it was like in learning and learning and growing and making content and things. By the end of May, I had made almost double what I was making in my 40-hour work week. So, I quit. I took the
Yeah.
leap of faith because I realized there was still money on the table. And you know what? I made a good decision. I started full time doing OnlyFans 2 months in, June 1st. And in the month of June, I made $10,000. So month 3, I made that tenth of
Yeah.
that I said that tenth of. And since then, I've only made more, knock on wood. Um, and, it's been a crazy ride, but again, I found my niche. I found my
Yeah.
niche. I am very observant, what works business wise. But this doesn't have to be OnlyFans. It could be Darian in 10 years, there could be something, and you'd look at this opportunity that didn't exist today, didn't even exist today. Maybe it's something virtual reality or something. And all of a sudden, Darian, you or one of your listeners is given this opportunity, and you're like, wow, that would be pretty cool if I could do that. Well,
Yeah.
investigate it. You don't have to drop everything. I never suggest anybody do anything reckless. Like, look at the risks. I had to look at this. Hey, if I do OnlyFans, this is forever.
Yeah.
This is forever. This will, this will always be online. Um, and I have to, I have to decide that. It's easier, I think, when you're 50 plus because you go, you know, it's just an easier assessment than it would have been at 25. I look at some of these younger women that go into this and I think, gosh, I'm glad I'm not younger because
Yeah.
first of all, I don't care as much about what people think. Um, and my calculated risk has a lot more behind it. I know a lot more
That's right.
than I would have at 25.
Isn't that amazing? Like, if you could take the wisdom you have at this age and you could transport to that younger self, you're like, wow. Like, but that's the thing when people say, oh, they wish they were young. I never wish I was younger because I feel
No,
like
me
I'm at the
either.
peak of my powers at this age. And I feel like at that point in my life, like I look back, I'm like, I was fairly dumb. Like a lot of the stuff that I did. But that's part of being that age, is you can't
Right.
have
You can't
wisdom.
know.
You can't know. You don't have the experience. You cannot have the
Right.
wisdom at that point.
Right. I mean, now I have a teenager and I've been public about this. He's a young teenager and you really just don't get smarter in your own brain than when you're a young teenager and you're a boy. I mean, oh my goodness, I learned things, and I'm just like, some of this stuff's hardwired. Being a
Yeah.
boy mom, it's like I've learned so much about men
Yeah.
from just observing those core things throughout his growing. I'm like, oh. So I think that's where women that have brothers definitely are an advantage. I didn't have brothers
Yeah.
because they understand the psychology, a lot of stuff that's really hardwired in you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I want to go back to you took this opportunity with OnlyFans, this virtual platform, and you just don't know what the future holds with job opportunities with
Mm-hmm.
that because like we almost have a similar path. I went from just fully in person training people in personal training to fully live virtual, completely 100%. And I make like triple what I made doing it in person and running a high-end club. Like it was explosive. But I didn't even
And the
think that
costs
was the
are
cost.
so much better.
Right. The costs went down for
Overhead,
me because I didn't
of
have to
course.
have any of that. And so it was like all profit. But you think you don't know the jobs of the future. The OnlyFans of the future may be a holographic version of it. It could be whatever you actually transport to someone's bedroom without
Mm-hmm.
being there. And
Right,
the
kind of
risk
like
of that,
in Star
you know?
Wars,
Right.
Princess Leia, she
Right.
comes
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's Obi-Wan, you're the only one that can help us,
Yes.
or any of these sci-fi movies. Like sci-fi usually, that's the thing with the sci-fi is usually they're there. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Star Trek Captain Kirk
Yes. Me too.
like a flip phone, basically.
Yes.
So a lot
Yes.
of times our technology kind of follows the creativeness of the sci-fi world way back.
I mean, a good example is Minority Report with Tom Cruise, right? The swiping of the screen.
Yes.
That was like not available when that was
No,
happening. People do that all the
no.
time now.
I
So
don't
it's
get it gives you chills, doesn't it? Like
right.
it gives you chills. It's like that's real now. Like I
Oh,
had a corded phone.
yeah.
I had to die. I mean, you know, uh, somebody was just telling me this week they're like, one of the tests of age or whatever is, say kind of mime that you're going to make a phone call. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, it's this.
Yeah. I same thing. Yeah.
You ask a
Yeah.
kid or somebody of a certain age, they're going to be like, right? Take
Yeah.
a picture, right?
Right.
No,
No. That yeah, exactly.
isn't that
Exactly.
something?
It is wild. I actually remember sitting down in my living room watching Back to the Future Part 2 when I was much younger. And the part where Marty McFly was talking to his boss, the future. I'm like, man, he's talking on his TV to someone. Dude, we're
Right?
doing that right now. We're literally
Yeah,
doing that
I
right.
know. And it's not, we haven't time traveled. I mean,
No.
what an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing thing that like you were like an 80s kid,
Yeah, I
you
was. Yeah.
so you were probably born what, 77 or something? I was born
Yeah,
in
78.
77,
Yeah.
right? So, you still were, I mean, you probably don't remember the disco, but you definitely remember the 80s. But
Yeah.
like, I didn't have a remote control for my TV, and now it's like some fancy people did, or like some grandmother, I think, had one, but it was right. You did
You
this,
turned
or
it. Yeah.
like cable TV. I just remember, oh my goodness, like one of my friends' parents got cable TV, and that
Yeah.
was, I mean, it's just these kids now, the funny thing is, even when my kiddo was really young, I remember it was a Model T, like was driving,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Oh my God, look at how old that car is." Yeah, it's really old. And he goes, "That's like from the 1980s or something."
Come on now. Come on. That was foolish. That's foolish.
Yeah, well, he was quite a young kid, but
Yeah.
still, whoa, context, like the timeline. You don't know the timeline
Yeah.
yet, but those are things, though. Like you see things that look antique. Like literally, when I started working, when you were a kid yet, but when I started working in offices in the 80s, sometimes people would smoke at their desk.
Oh yeah.
Like that seems so antiquated now.
Sure.
But I remember flying as a kid, being on planes that had an ashtray.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Are
No,
you?
no, no. I remember a little bit of that because people used to smoke on planes. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a lot of things people used to do that we would never think of doing
right.
now. But we're in an age where like everything is more convenient. And it's
Yes,
interesting, this online life is we're moving further and further into it. And that's the interesting thing I think about this conversation is what you're doing with OnlyFans, what I do with my live virtual training, they're just a progression of reality of what it is. I
yeah.
mean, and people are
Like
now
Ready,
getting
Set,
fantasy without
yeah,
having to be physical, actually.
right. So there's a lot of ways it's safer. I mean, the other movies, so Minority Report, but how about like Ready, Set, Player with all
Yes,
the
yes.
virtual
That was
reality? I
great.
mean,
Yeah.
that's right there too. I mean, especially in my world where, I'll kind of say I'm kind of adult entertainment
Yeah.
adjacent. And
Adjacent. Yeah.
sometimes, it blurs the line. OnlyFans really goes kind of like it blurs the line, kind of crosses over, comes back. We're kind
Yeah.
of crossover artists. It's kind of like we're not totally like, pop and rock. We also kind of cross over to other genres,
Yeah.
and a lot of us do. And it's really interesting how like Ready Set Player and the VR, and how that is probably the future of adult entertainment
Mm.
is actual VR. And unfortunately, some of this AI is it's just kind of part of that, which as a mom, it kind of scares me because I see my kid really communicating mostly with his friends
Right.
online.
Right.
and I see some social skills that aren't really there. I mean, I just saw like a restaurant commercial where they're all sitting at like Golden Corral or something, and she's like, "This is talking to people. Get on phones. We're here,"
Yeah.
and it's a real thing. So, like anything, there's a pendulum shift. Like it's so great, right? You can do fitness with people. I can entertain and with adult entertainment out of the safety of my home, and I can entertain thousands.
Right.
You can train as many people as you can
Right.
train
Yeah.
in the safety of their home. You don't have the liability insurance issues of like slip and fall at a studio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so there's advantages, but then there are, I mean, again, for my kind of work, there's a real advantage of safety and
Sure.
privacy of doing it virtually. For the, working out, there's an advantage. Certainly, it's convenient. You're not having
Convenience.
to
Yeah.
go to some place, especially working out. Like if you go, oh God, I don't want to have to get up, go
Yeah.
someplace. I need to take a shower first. Like, oh, you can do it
Yeah.
at home, before you work
Actually, it's
out.
funny. I train a lot of women, and that's actually a very large thing for women is this all this time getting together, getting yourself out the door, taking care of things. Is the time factor is a huge factor. And it's
Right.
a
Yeah, that
currency
you might
you
go,
can't
it's
get
not worth
back.
it.
It's not worth it to have a 2-hour round trip or
Right. And to be
something,
away from your
Your
kids, if
kids,
they're mom,
exactly.
like if you're working out at home, kids
Right.
can be upstairs.
Right. And the funny thing is, I also get people, they're annoyed at gyms because now at gyms, we talked about this with the phone. Now, a lot of people at gyms are doing this at the gym, filming themselves, posting it. Like it's a lot of like a pageant show or like a
Yeah.
self absorption show. So you're getting like all these people doing weird stuff at gyms. And like the
Yeah.
opposite of what you would do there is actually working out.
Right. Right. Well, and the whole thing of like, then you need special gym clothes. So you look
Right.
decent, right.
Yes.
You look decent and, your hair is, so you don't look like a schlub. But if you're working out at home, you can just be like, okay, I'm a schlub right now. I can continue to be a schlub while I'm working out at home and it's
Yeah.
okay. So I would think that, maybe there's something to be said of being more reliably working out
Yeah.
because you don't have the excuses.
Yes, you cut down on all the friction and all the points of pain points of
Yeah.
time, what am I looking like? This whole thing. And I think that's feels like part of that for what maybe your fans are is like they can feel safe in the environment that they're in at home or wherever, and they could just log in. They're paying
Mhm.
for a service that and fulfill a fantasy that maybe if they had to go somewhere to experience this, there may be some shame they may feel about it.
Well,
And
think about if you think about when you were, just probably more cognizant when you
mm,
were in maybe even the early 90s. There
yeah,
wasn't this, right? So men are overwhelmingly the OnlyFans demographic,
right, right,
and whether it's straight, gay, whatever, it's men.
right.
And what would you have done then? What was your visual? Because men are very visual. And what would their visual? It would have been a magazine.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious. If you're walking around
Right.
Playboy or a Hustler or a Penthouse, like if you're on the bus, hey everybody, now phone.
Yeah, right.
It's much easier. Like, especially if a guy has a girlfriend or a wife
Right.
or something, and he still wants to be entertained in that way, it's a phone. Before it would be like, how many friends of yours? I know I found my dad's stash of Playboy, Playgirl. But I found, and I was like, oh, because you had to have a stash. It was a
Yeah.
stash. You would not hit it. Like this is on your phone, so it's so much easier.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I think and from the past, we've had this real resistance from our society about pleasure. Like if it's just weird resistance to pleasure. I've been talking to a lot of
That's an
people about
American
this.
thing. That's
Right. That's a big
not just
weird
American.
America. I grew up in
Yeah,
Europe partially myself and
you
stuff.
did. You
So
did. What
I
part?
understand in Germany
Okay,
and
yeah.
traveled all around. So I understand a difference, for that. But yeah, I would agree. Americans have a weird relationship with pleasure, whether it's through altered states of consciousness, whether it's through pleasure sexually and stuff. It's like we have this wall about pleasure,
It's
and we
that
don't want
it
people to
has to
have
be
it.
the Puritan, the beginnings.
Yeah, the
It has to
puritanical
come,
aspect. Yeah,
yeah, it has to come from that because it is so weird. We're such a melting pot, and yet there is this kind of pervasive, you know, shame, stigma with sex, and it's so
yeah,
strange because as a mom, I have problems with violence. I have problems with my kids seeing violence. Like
right.
that, I have a problem with. That I find is offensive. I don't find people's bodies, I don't find, and this is probably why I do what I do, because I don't find those things offensive. I find gratuitous gore and
Mhm.
violence, I find that offensive. I don't find sexuality offensive or nudity, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have an appearance here. I mean,
I know. He's like, let me go on her shoulder. No, you're not a parent.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so that is a thing that that's one of the things that we have to deal with as, and again, we're online entertainers, and yet we still kind of are in fear, like other people in the
right.
adult world, even though what we do is 100% legal.
Yeah,
It's completely an adult thing. It's not that much different than a Penthouse, Playboy, Hustler
right.
magazine. And yet, we still have to be kind of, I mean, people get their bank accounts shut down
Mm,
that are doing OnlyFans work.
really?
Yeah, they do. And they have to be careful about that because there is a stigma and a thing about OnlyFans, just like Pornhub or,
Right.
anything like that. I had a daytime talk show. They wanted to put me on and then they ghosted me.
Mm,
Like I went through a couple different interviews, and I was like, okay, you do know. I mean, I'm pretty light in what I do, especially at that time. And I'm like, but you know what OnlyFans is known for, right? And they're like,
yeah.
oh, sure, yeah, sure. And then they just kind of ghosted me after, like, I mean, they had set a date and everything, but it was too hot to handle. And I've heard that from other creators where they've been booked on things to talk about their experience, and it's just too hot to handle.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I watched that documentary on Netflix about Pornhub.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
and they kind of adjacently had OnlyFans because there were
Right.
performers who were on Pornhub plus OnlyFans and the whole thing. From what I gathered with Pornhub, there just hasn't been a lot of guardrails in place because there's some underage illegal stuff going on, and I think
Yeah,
when
not now. I mean,
not
now I think
right,
they're taking it seriously, but it
yeah,
was, I mean, I guess, it was something that I think one of the adult performers, and she's amazing, but I don't want to misquote her. She
sure,
was talking about somebody, it wasn't her, it was somebody else, another interview was talking about, like, but Twitter doesn't have a lot of guardrails.
right,
I mean, you
yeah,
can see some stuff that you're like, ooh,
yeah,
there's not a lot, they have some sensitivity, but at least if you have a RU 18 before you enter the site, but like, OF now, and I'm fine with it. You have to age verify. In fact, I had to age verify once, just to log onto my account. They wanted
right,
me to do it again, where they do a thing where they scan your face,
yeah, okay,
where they can tell if you're old enough.
hmm.
They were probably like, oh yeah, you,
Like Elena, hey,
yeah, oh you, it's kind of like, okay, it's a pity AI thing. I always call it like the pity card when I go to buy a bottle of wine, and once in a
the
while,
pity card.
kid behind is like, can I see your ID? And it's like, yes, you
Yes, you
can.
can. Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I do. Oh, okay, I'm 21. Put your glasses back on.
Right.
But that's the pity card. I always I'm like,
Yeah. I think the danger of a lot of this stuff to people outside is just, with a lot of things, it's like you just can't have a free for all for everything. And I think sometimes we create things and we don't think about the consequences of it. While it's perfectly fine to have all these things, it's like not verifying things and then bad stuff happens with things that are legal. it's like then they have to go back and do things. It's funny. I never see companies like be proactive about stuff. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and here's the parameters we're gonna have. It's almost like it's just creating stuff, and then
Yeah.
let's see what happens. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of a human nature thing too, is people don't often are not proactive about stuff. They
Yeah. Well,
humans
and are you going to
create.
pay a lawyer? Like, you
Yeah,
don't know how far you're going to get, or you
right.
don't know, maybe you just don't even know what the problems could be. Like even for your fitness stuff,
Yeah,
especially when you're in person, or even now, like,
sure.
liability insurance.
Of
Why
course.
do you need a personal liability umbrella? Well,
Yeah, of
these are the things that can happen
course.
unless you listen to somebody. I used to sell insurance, and as somebody that's a single mom, life insurance is important.
Of
Now, does
course.
everyone need life insurance? Maybe not. Do you want to have something if you don't have something to take care of your final wishes? Like that's important. But
Yeah.
I just from a very personal, very non OnlyFans world
Yeah.
that goes into this, how many people don't have a will?
It's true.
I mean, if even if you're single and you don't have kids, don't you want a little bit of guidance to
Right.
what you want done
Yeah.
after you're gone? Like even if it's just for your loved ones to kind of know. I
Yeah.
know it's very non-sexy stuff, but it's like people avoid uncomfortable things
Well,
oftentimes.
yes. And the other thing is there's a great I don't know if you've ever seen Explained on Netflix. It's really good stuff. And it's
No.
just like explains all different parts of being alive, whether it's financial stuff, dating and all that. And there's an episode on retirement. And there's a huge amount of research in that. And this goes to what you said. People don't save for retirement or think about their future self because they don't recognize that they will be that person. So the
Hmm.
25-year-old Elena cannot know who 53, 55-year-old, like that person doesn't exist to that person.
Right.
So people don't say because even if you show them like, hey, this is how you could look, and they did this on the show, they aged people, young people, to show them how they could look, and
Yeah.
they said, that's not me. I'm not going to look like that. Like they refuse to accept their future version of themselves. And a lot of people they just won't save or look at the future because that person does not exist to them. It is
Yeah.
not a real person.
Well, aging too, that's another thing. Aging in our culture is
Mm,
has been such a negative.
right.
It's such a negative, like, but I heard somebody and I thought, and I've adopted this. First of all, I used to, for the longest time, I was engaged to somebody that was very like, oh, I'm getting old and stuff. And I was
Yeah.
in my 30s, he was in his 40s. And I would just be like, you know what? Beat the alternative. I mean, what are you going to do? You age or you die. That's the binary choice. So,
Exactly.
like accept it. But here's the other thing that I thought of, and obviously this you can only learn from getting older.
Yeah.
Aging is a privilege.
Yes.
Aging is a privilege.
Agreed.
How lucky am I to have gotten to age 55, next month 56? Put aside all this stuff. How lucky am I to have seen my kid get to this age? Like, be grateful. If you're getting older, there are people that have died that are 10 years, 20 years, 50 years younger than you. They never got this.
Yeah.
Aging is a privilege.
Most definitely.
Don't
It's a
waste
huge
it. I
privilege.
mean,
Don't
it's a
waste it.
privilege.
Why spend your time just like existing to be dead? I mean, just
Yeah,
like, well, I guess this is it. I used to have a good time.
right.
Like,
Now,
why you
I
should?
get to do this. I mean, listen, it's even, you walk to your car. I get to walk to my car.
Yeah,
I get to drive my car. There are some people can't drive. There are
that's
some
right.
people that can no longer walk. I get to do this.
Yeah,
It's a privilege,
most definitely. So
you know?
with your OnlyFans, it's so interesting. So you're like, this is forever. So what do you see with this as it's getting bigger and bigger and you're getting more fans? How do you envision this continuing to be a large part of your life and like where's it
So,
going for
like,
you?
eventually, I don't want to do this.
You're like, I don't want to be 70-year-old only.
I mean, you know, 65, maybe. I mean, like, listen, I've started like collabing with other like professional
Yeah.
people, and that's been, I mean, would have thought? I'm 55 and I get to touch some of this entertainment area that I never in my wildest dreams, and I'm meeting kind of amazing people. I'm meeting other, other women too, but so I'm meeting these people, and that's opening up my eyes to this whole other universe that I never thought I'd get, and even a touch of, which is so cool. So like I'm staying open, like never
Yeah.
say never. So I'm like, let's see. Although I will tell you, there's a few like cosmetic procedures. I'm like, I will also put that on never say never, because sometimes you see yourself aging and you're like,
Uh-huh.
a little nip and tuck once in a while. I can understand that. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm never going to say I'm always going to be like flouting a mom bod. Like, maybe I'm okay with a mom belly, but maybe I'd like it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit less,
Yeah.
So I'm never going to say no to any of those type of things. If it makes me feel better, I don't think I'd ever go anything extreme,
Yeah.
but as I get older, like there's a balance, right? So it's always a kind of a balance, and I don't think I'd want it. It'd be cool if I could retire at 60
Yeah.
from doing this. I don't know if that's possible. I've been asked to do books. It's been brought up several times. They're like, you have a life story, you've gone through a lot. You could be a real inspirational, kind of cool thing. I don't think I could do that though until I've arced this story. And I don't think that story is
Mm.
art. I don't think it's gotten to this point. But I will tell you one of the things, Darian, that I have identified is I really have a lot more compassion with people in the entertainment business, um, and how their careers kind of ebb and flow. And you see somebody like a Brendan Fraser
Yeah.
who,
Yeah.
like was here and who
Right.
now he was, yeah,
Right.
and then kind of disappeared
Right. He did
from
the
our
mummy, and
world.
then it's like,
Right. But now he's having this like resurgence of a
Right.
career, and it's like, and he's so grateful. And as a grown up that has gone through my ups and downs, that touches me so much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how can you watch this man and not be like, oh, and he's grateful. He's
Yeah.
grateful for it
Yeah.
because he's had it down. And so I see like, for instance, I see why celebrities date other celebrities. When you're a civilian, like you're nowhere near the entertainment place, you kind of like, oh, look at they're always going after other actresses or other models, or
Yeah.
they're only just, there's a reason in dating. There's a weird dynamic. Any tiny, tiny, tiny bit of fame throws things off.
Yeah.
Like there's a power dynamic that kind of throws it off. And I've tried this, and it can get really kind of weird. I
Hmm.
really haven't dated since I started this, but a couple times I've tried, it's gotten weird. And it's because I'm public. I'm a public person. I'm not a superstar, but even a little bit of fame, if you're talking to somebody that doesn't have a little bit of fame,
Hmm.
they don't get it, or it makes them uncomfortable, or they want to. I mean, I remember a guy that I met, and he's just like, well, I mean, obviously, if we really hit it off, I want you to stop the whole OnlyFans, all of that. And I'm like, to
No.
do what? Because I don't know if there's certainly in my mind, there's nothing else I could be doing right now that I could make as much money. So,
Yeah.
what, and quit it for a guy that may
Something
or
that
may
may
not
not
be
work
there.
out. I mean,
Right,
like,
exactly. So, yeah. So, I mean, as far as how long, I guess I'm open to seeing whether that's a book. Maybe there's something, maybe, I don't, here's the thing. 3 years ago, you would have asked me that. Hopefully, I would have said, I don't know. Let's see what the universe,
yeah.
what God presents.
Yeah. It's
Keep
amazing.
open. That's my message.
Keep
Keep
it
open
open.
to the possibility that something that is life changing in a positive way is going to present itself.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to decide, do I pursue this? Do I take the chance to look at it? Never be reckless. I wouldn't have advised myself if somebody came to me and was like, Elena, gosh, should I try this OnlyFans thing? Here's my circumstance. And I'd be like, weigh the risks.
Yeah.
It's not without risk. I have stalkers. I have people that get way, 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 way overboard in what they think that our relationship is.
Yeah.
I'm fantasy entertainment, whether they think that we're going to meet in person or that we're going to have a life together. It's like we hear this with celebrities, and I'm going to tell you, as above, so below. Even somebody on my level, it can get scary because people can make a fantasy that goes too far,
Yeah.
and it can get really scary.
It makes a lot of sense, honestly. It's very interesting where this is going to go, this arc, because it's the arc of not only like fantasy, but it's an arc of technology and how this
Mm-hmm.
continues to progress. Because, like we said before, this isn't the end. This is
Right,
just this is literally a rocket ship going up, and it's going to change. The Elena St. James story is continuing, and it may look a little different in the next 5 years,
well,
10
one
years.
of the things, Darian, that's so crazy, and I mean, I don't know, I mean, what you produce. Do you produce things that are taped, that somebody
Yeah,
could do a workout, that you have
right.
like this workout that I did on Tuesday? This could literally, if my whoever takes care of my after effects is smart enough, this could continue. I have enough videos and I have enough photos and I mean, somebody brought up, they're like, you have an Elena St. James, you have a catalog of
Yeah,
creation that could outlive you and could, now at some point the technology is going to change, but yet again, there are black and white movies, or there are movies and TV shows that still generate income, that are still watched. I mean, Brady Bunch and different TV shows from our childhood that are still up, and they're still
yeah,
generating, there's people are still watching. So, I mean, literally, somebody brought up, they're like, you have an Elena St. James catalog of videos and photos, content
yeah,
that could continue on. It might at some time be antiquated because maybe 10 years or 20 years down the line, kind of like beta and VHS tapes, or
sure. Yeah,
VHS tape versus a disc, it might be antiquated, but that content's still there and may still have some value 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
well, even think about this. I believe Alexa is doing this or Google's doing this, but you're going to have the ability to, when you're gone, your voice could become the Alexa. And as AI increases, let's say your son could talk to you through the Alexa. Obviously, it's not
Right,
but it's like he could ask you questions and you could answer him. And it's in a
right,
way you're almost living forever in some way, digitally. And so your brand could essentially just continue to flourish, and
right,
continue
right.
to
You have
move.
like you have the AI version of
The
you, and I
AI
think
version
there's
of
what it's
you.
called, like JOI City. There's a
Yeah.
famous photographer, Holly Randall, that's doing. She's incorporated,
Yeah, I know who
and
Holly is. Yeah.
you know who Holly is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and she is now involved with JOI City, and in that it's going to be an AI. And so she was talking to some model, and the model said, "Like, I could be this age forever."
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be this age. I mean, think about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Think about Obi-Wan, how he
That's
kept
true.
coming back. He was dead.
Yeah,
He kept coming
exactly.
back, and you were having conversations. Not
Yeah.
me. Luke
Right.
was.
Right.
So yeah, that you're absolutely right with the AI. And then you think about it, it almost sounds antiquated now. And I just was watching some show, or I did a deep dive on like cryopreservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, like there's some that are the whole body and it's being
Sure.
frozen and they're hoping, but then some it's just their brain. And
Yeah.
I think one of the pioneers of the cryo thing, he just decided he thought by the time that they have the technology to bring it back, all he needs is his brain, because by the time he won't need his body because they'll be able to generate a new body
Right.
for his old brain, I guess. But I
Yeah.
mean, at some point that might be so antiquated that
Yeah.
because they'll take it more from an AI, like they won't take it
Sure.
from the brain, whatever's left in
Yeah.
there. They'll take it from the history of 20 years or 10 years of content making,
Yeah.
in my case, or your
Yeah.
case. They'll be like, who is this person? We're going to get the essence of Darian.
Yeah.
We're going to get him because we've observed his facial expression right there, right? Lifting of the eyebrow. We're going to get all of those things, like all the deep fakes. You ever looked into all the deep
Man,
fakes?
deep fakes are wild. It's a little scary though. I don't know. It's just very scary. Like,
Oh, it's really scary. And I'm like, because then I think, oh my God, they could do that to me. I mean, they're doing it for big celebrities. Like there's one guy that does Tom Cruise.
I know.
Have you
It's
seen that one?
wild. It's so wild because you got to think if you're a public figure, somebody could be coming after you. I mean, someone that you're just kind of anonymous in life, they're not deep faking you because it's not fun because you're not out
Right.
there. But
Yeah.
imagine you're a big celebrity and all of a sudden Tom Cruise shows up, does this video, and you have no clue if it's not him because it literally looks just like him talking.
My kid watches this wacky thing on YouTube that it's ex-presidents playing video games.
Yeah.
And so it's their voices. And it's like you got Obama, George Bush, and like Clinton or something, and it's their voices and they're playing video games together. Bizarre. Oh, the
Bizarre.
other one he watches, and he watched on YouTube. I've watched it a few times. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's Ewan McGregor,
Yeah.
but it's a guy that puts the deep fake. Have you seen this one?
I haven't seen it, no.
But and then he has somebody else that's got a deep fake of Liam Neeson, and then they basically review like the current Mandalorian season, which it's actually, I mean, they're very clear that it's a parody, it's a deep
Yeah.
fake, and then they have somebody with Anakin Skywalker, the Hayden
Hayden Christensen,
Christensen,
yeah.
but the major guy is the Ewan McGregor, and he's sitting there, he's like, oh come on, that wouldn't happen. Who does
Yeah.
that? And he's like, well, I think in Kurdistan that would happen. So you've got the Liam Neeson character, the Ewan
Yeah.
McGregor, and they're watching an episode of Mandalorian, and then he keeps saying like, "Hello there, hello there." It's just crazy, but that's entertainment because it is. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's wrong, but I was super entertained.
Yeah,
It's
man.
funny, and all through it, they're like parody, parody. It's not real.
Yeah. Right. This is why I got to tell you, Elena, I talk to a lot of people in this kind of genre or adjacent to this genre. You're like the best person to talk to. Like because like in this world, but you're like into like that type of stuff. And you're like Marvel
Yeah,
and stuff. And usually when I talk to different people, they're all wonderful, but it's kind of like one track minded.
yeah.
And you seem to have a lot of interest. I love that. You're easy to talk to. You're wonderful. Seriously, you're
Well,
wonderful.
thank you. I mean, I listen. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
I love learning stuff. I mean, there's so much in the world. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I just saw something with William Shatner. So you remember the
I
original,
do remember.
right?
Yes.
He's 93
It's
years
crazy,
old.
right?
And I just saw something on Instagram where some beautiful young girl sits on his lap. He's like in like one of those little scooter things, and she's like, "Oh," and he's flirting with her, and I'm like, he's not, and he is still on his game. And I'm like, I would sit on his lap. Where
Right.
is he? I would
Where
love
is he?
to. William Shatner, he's
Yeah.
still got it. He's
He still
93
got it.
years old. He's still got that charisma, you
Yeah, he
know?
does. He does. Well, I mean, and clearly you have it, Lena. I mean, again, you look amazing. Thank you for being on. Please tell all the lovely people how they can get more Elena St. James in their life.
Well, the easiest way is just to go to ElenaSt.James.com. That has my official links at some point. But I will just say there's a lot of fakes out there. I mean, I'm not even a big celebrity, and maybe that's why, but there's a lot of fakes. There are a lot of catfishers. There are a lot of
Yeah.
scammers that use my picture, my
Mm.
face, my likeness, my reels. I have so many. I can't count how many TikTok accounts I have
Oh my
that aren't
goodness.
mine. How many Instagram accounts. I try to battle them and report them as much as
Yeah.
possible, but I do not DM anybody on
Yeah.
social media. But this is one of the bigger problems with OnlyFans girls is
Right.
that they get catfish. So ElenaSt.James.com, and it's ELAINA stjames.com, or only Elena. But again, you have to remember how I spell my name. And
Yeah.
that'll have all the official places on there.
Wonderful. Elena, it's been a pleasure. A
Thank you,
massive
Darian.
pleasure. Yes.
Yeah. Are you going to go work out now?
Well, I have another session because all of my sessions are live like this. They're live
Okay.
virtual. So I have that coming up here in a couple minutes. But man, what a pleasure. I mean, I feel like we definitely got to chat
Oh my
again
God,
another
we could.
time. I
You
mean, just
you're curious, and I
yeah.
talk too much, but
No, no, this is great. Believe me, it's great. I mean, it's awesome. You just seem like a fantastic person. I'm definitely going to keep up with what you're doing. And we got to chat again. Seriously, it's been a pleasure.
yeah, I would love that. Thank you, Darian.
Awesome. Thank you so
All right.
much.